All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive on Otherworld,
Oh, yeah.
this really fascinating sci-fi show from the 80s.
Yeah.
Um, only ran for one season, but really made an impact.
Absolutely.
And we've got tons of stuff, articles, fan theories,
Mm.
old interviews to
Yeah,
really kind of dig into this.
definitely.
So what do you think is the most interesting thing about Otherworld?
Um, I think for me, what really stands out, especially now that I've rewatched it,
Yeah?
is how it uses the family as a sci-fi concept itself.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about the weird planets or the strange situations.
Mm-hmm.
It's how this kind of normal family has to confront their own sort of inner weirdness.
I like that. I never thought about it like that. It's
Yeah.
almost like each world is a metaphor for a different stage of family life.
Right.
Like the rebellious teenager or wanting to be independent.
Exactly.
Even the parents questioning their choices.
Exactly. And, a great example of this is the episode
Oh, yeah.
Mansion of the Beast.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
So on the surface, it's about this world where emotions are controlled by technology.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But if you dig a little deeper, it's playing on those very real 80s anxieties.
Oh, wow.
Losing individuality.
Interesting.
Years of Cold War mind control.
Yeah.
The rise of all those self-help gurus who are promising happiness.
Okay, yeah.
And the Torkelsons are battling those forces as a family unit.
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
But wouldn't audiences back then have just seen it as, like a weird sci-fi show?
Well, maybe some. But you have to remember, this was also the era of family ties,
Oh, yeah.
where even sitcoms were tackling social issues
Okay.
through this lens of family otherworld. Just
Yeah.
kind of took that and went a step further,
Right.
making those anxieties literal.
So almost like prepping us for the world we live in now,
Yeah.
where, technology really is kind of
Right.
shaping our emotions and, our relationships and
Right.
everything. I mean, could you imagine if you were sucked into one of these otherworld scenarios?
Oh,
Like, how would you even begin to wrap your head around it?
right. I think that's a great question. And that's what we're going to keep coming back to
Okay.
throughout this deep dive.
Yeah.
Like, how would we, with all of our modern sensibilities,
Right.
deal with those situations?
Right.
And I think what's cool about this show is it also kind of makes us think
Yeah.
about the choices that we make, both individually and as a family when we're faced with the unknown.
Okay. Now that's getting a little deep, but I love it.
Yeah.
Already getting chills. Okay, so before we get too existential,
Yeah.
let's kind of back up
Right.
and just talk about the structure of the show itself. So each episode throws the Torkelsons into a new world, right?
Right. But it's not just like random sci-fi spectacles.
Yeah.
Like, those worlds are really carefully chosen to echo thematic concerns.
Okay.
So, for example, when they land in a society with constant surveillance and rules of attraction,
Right.
it's not just about Big Brother.
Right.
It's how it impacts children and their privacy,
Right.
which was something that was really not talked about on TV at the time.
That's true. I remember being creeped out by that episode as a kid,
Yes.
but I couldn't articulate why. Now
Yeah.
thinking about it, it's like it was tapping into that primal childhood fear
Yeah.
about being watched even in your own home.
Exactly. And it really played on parental anxieties, too.
Yeah.
Remember, this was like the peak of stranger danger paranoia.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Otherworld was reflecting that, but it took it to a whole other level.
Right.
Like, what if the stranger is the world itself?
Oh, wow. That is heavy.
Yeah.
For what on the surface seemed like this,
Right.
family adventure show.
Yeah.
So did critics back then even get this layered approach?
That's where it gets interesting. The reviews were really mixed.
Oh, really?
Some people praised the ambition and the originality,
Mm-hmm.
while others thought it was too cerebral for prime time.
Okay.
It was really walking a tightrope
Yeah.
between thought-provoking sci-fi
Right.
and accessible family drama.
I guess that's probably why it only lasted 8 episodes.
Right.
So you mentioned the show's legacy earlier.
Yeah.
And how much of an impact it had on later sci-fi.
Right.
But weren't there shows like Sliders that were already doing that whole parallel universe thing?
Yes, Sliders definitely popularized that concept,
Okay.
but Otherworld had a different focus.
Oh, okay.
Sliders was more about just the thrill
Okay.
of exploring different realities,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Otherworld really used those realities to examine human nature,
Okay.
family dynamics,
Right.
societal anxieties.
So Otherworld was more introspective than
Yeah.
using sci-fi as a vehicle for social commentary.
Exactly.
And then Sliders is more like pure escapist fun.
Right. It's like comparing the Twilight Zone to Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
Both sci-fi, but very different goals.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see Otherworld's influence on later shows that combined, these deeper themes with genre elements like
Yeah.
Fringe or even Stranger Things with its focus on,
Right.
family bonds.
Definitely.
But didn't Otherworld originally start as a spin-off of The Twilight Zone?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
And that connection is really fascinating.
Yeah.
While Otherworld ultimately became its own entity,
Right.
it definitely inherited the Twilight Zone's DNA,
Okay.
especially its penchant for using these fantastical scenarios
Right.
as a way to hold a mirror up to society.
That makes the Otherworld universe even more intriguing.
Yeah.
So if it was so groundbreaking, why did it get the axe after only 8 episodes?
Well, there are a lot of theories about why Otherworld got canceled.
Oh, really?
Some people say it was too dark for a family audience.
Okay.
Others argue that it suffered from poor marketing.
Interesting.
And maybe it was simply ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Tackling themes that audiences weren't quite ready to grapple with in prime time.
It's almost like Otherworld slipped into an alternate reality where it never got the recognition it deserved.
Maybe it did.
I love it.
But, despite its short run, it really did leave a mark.
Mm-hmm.
It attracted a passionate cult following.
Yeah.
And it continues to spark discussion and debate among fans.
Right.
Even to this day.
And that's the power of a truly unique show.
Definitely.
It doesn't need a massive run
Right.
to make an impact.
It doesn't.
All it needs to do is connect with the right people.
Absolutely.
The ones who are open to its particular brand of weirdness and wonder.
Exactly.
And that's what makes revisiting Otherworld so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chance to appreciate its creativity,
Yeah.
its ambition,
Mm-hmm.
and its willingness to challenge viewers on so many different levels.
Yeah, it's really a special show.
Well, after this deep dive, I know I'm going to rewatch it.
Yeah, me too.
But before we do that, we've got to take a quick break.
Okay.
So we'll be right back with more Otherworld after this. Wow. Okay, so that was a lot to process.
Yeah.
My brain is officially buzzing.
For sure.
It's amazing how Otherworld can go from like this really simple premise,
Right.
family gets trapped in, these alternate realities,
Okay.
to like these really deep dives into, societal anxieties and human nature. It's
Yeah.
like each episode is this Trojan horse,
Yeah.
sneaking in these big ideas disguised as like sci-fi adventure.
It really is. And that's what I think makes it so rewatchable.
Mm-hmm.
You can enjoy it on that surface level.
Right.
But then there's just layers and layers that you can kind of peel back.
Right.
And each time you do, you find something new.
It's like those other worlds themselves, right?
Exactly.
Always kind of hiding something.
Always something new.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific episodes
Okay.
that really highlight this layered approach.
Sure.
You mentioned Rules of Attraction earlier.
Yeah.
The one where the Torkelsons land in this world of constant surveillance.
Right.
I'm thinking about it now. That episode is probably even more unsettling
yeah.
to watch in like our current era
Absolutely.
of social media and, data tracking and everything.
It's pretty chilling how prescient it was.
It is.
But what I think is really interesting is that Otherworld doesn't just present surveillance as this like Orwellian nightmare.
Right.
It actually digs into these really subtle ways.
Right.
That it can erode trust,
Yeah.
even within a family unit.
Okay.
Like, remember how the Torkelson kids
Oh, yeah.
start suspecting each other of being informants?
Oh my gosh, I had completely forgotten about that detail.
It's crazy, right?
It's like the show is saying surveillance doesn't just control your actions,
right.
but it poisons your relationships.
Yeah, right.
Like you can't even be sure who to confide in, or even your own family.
Yeah, and it plays into those political anxieties of the 80s, too.
Okay.
Like, remember, this was the tail end of the Cold War.
Oh, yeah?
All the fears about communist spies, infiltration.
Right.
Otherworld takes that and makes it, like, deeply personal.
Yeah.
Turning the family unit itself into, like, this battleground.
Okay, that's making me see Rules of Attraction in a whole new light.
I know, right?
It's not just a cautionary tale about, government overreach.
Right.
It's about how easily suspicion can just creep into our most personal bonds.
Totally.
Man, Otherworld was heavy.
It was heavy, but it was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay.
Even in the darkest episodes.
Right.
There's this glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
Like a reminder that human connection can still thrive, even when things are really bad.
And I guess that's where the family dynamic comes in again.
Yeah.
No matter how bizarre or challenging the situation, the Torkelsons always have each other's backs.
Exactly. And that's why I think Otherworld is so effective
Yeah.
at exploring those, what if you were trapped
Right.
scenarios.
Yeah.
Because even if we were in those worlds, knowing that you had your loved ones with you,
Right.
I think would make all the difference.
Okay, well, speaking of mind-blowing episodes,
Yeah.
we have to talk about Mansion of the Beast,
Oh, yeah.
the one where emotions are literally controlled by technology.
Yes.
I mean, that premise alone is enough to send shivers down your spine.
It's terrifying, and it's even more unnerving when
Right.
you consider, the cultural context of the 80s.
Okay.
This was the rise of all these, positive thinking movements
Right.
where you're encouraged to suppress negative emotions.
Right.
So Otherworld takes that and just pushes it to the extreme.
Right.
What happens when you lose control of your own feelings?
Back then, the idea of emotions being controlled by technology
Right.
seemed like pure science fiction.
Right.
But now, with algorithms dictating what we see on social media, influencing our moods, it feels a little too real.
A little too close for comfort,
Yeah.
right? And I think Otherworld kind of anticipated that the way that technology would eventually shape our emotional landscape.
It's making me think about, at what point do we surrender our autonomy
Yeah.
to these external forces?
Right.
When does convenience become control?
Exactly.
Okay, that is heavy.
Those are heavy questions.
Yeah, but that's what I love about Otherworld.
Mm-hmm.
It's not afraid to make you think.
Yeah.
It's not just entertaining, it's challenging.
It's challenging, and I think that's what makes it resonate with viewers
Yeah.
even decades later.
Right.
Because deep down, I think we're all wrestling with those questions
Right.
about identity, about freedom, and the impact of technology.
So we've talked about Otherworld tapping into, these 80s anxieties.
Right.
But it also had this really fun, adventurous side.
Oh, yeah.
I remember being captivated by, the creativity of all these different worlds, even if some of them were kind of creepy.
Yeah, for sure.
Did the writers just pull these concepts out of thin air?
Well, one of the things that really stands out to me
Yeah.
is the show's use of allegory.
Okay.
Like each other world isn't just a random planet.
Right.
It's a symbolic representation
Okay.
of some aspect of human nature or society.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. So think about the episode where they land in this world
Okay.
that's obsessed with beauty and perfection.
Oh, yeah.
On the surface, it's a satire of superficiality,
Right.
but it also explores, the pressure to conform,
Yeah.
the fear of aging, the insecurities that I think we all grapple with.
I'm starting to see how every detail in Otherworld serves a purpose.
Yeah.
Like a giant puzzle box.
Right.
With each episode offering a new piece to this overall puzzle of human existence.
I love that analogy.
So it's not just about the destination. It's
Yeah.
about the journey.
Exactly.
Both for the Torkelsons and for us as viewers.
Yeah.
We're all kind of in this together.
We are.
Trying to make sense of this strange and wonderful and sometimes terrifying universe.
And, I think that's the most profound message
Yeah.
that Otherworld offers.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what challenges you face,
Right.
whether you're navigating a bizarre alternate reality
Right.
or just trying to understand your own world. The key is to just keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep questioning,
Right.
and never stop searching for meaning.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, so speaking of searching for meaning,
Okay.
let's shift our focus to the legacy of Otherworld.
Okay.
We've talked about its influence on later sci-fi.
Right.
But how did it impact the cultural landscape back in the 80s?
Otherworld wasn't a ratings juggernaut.
Okay.
So it didn't have that same cultural reach
Yeah.
as, say, like Star Wars or Star Trek.
Right.
But it definitely found its niche audience.
Okay.
People who were drawn to its unique blend of, sci-fi,
Yeah.
family drama,
Right.
and these thought-provoking themes.
So it was more of a cult classic then. Something that really resonated
Exactly.
with a smaller but, dedicated group of viewers.
Absolutely. And within that group,
Yeah.
Otherworld definitely sparked conversations.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. Fan letters poured in,
Wow.
praising the show's intelligence,
Yeah.
its creativity, its willingness to tackle these really complex issues.
I would love to read some of those fan letters.
Oh, they're fascinating.
What were people saying about the show?
Well, they were saying that, it made them think differently about technology, about family, about the nature of reality itself.
Wow.
And they really appreciated that it didn't give them easy answers.
Right.
It embraced ambiguity
Yeah.
It challenged viewers to draw their own conclusions.
It's like Otherworld provided the safe space
Yeah.
for people to explore those big questions
Yeah.
and those anxieties that weren't always addressed
Yeah, right.
in mainstream entertainment.
Exactly. It was something special.
Yeah.
And it offered the sense of community, this shared experience for people who were looking for something more than just mindless entertainment.
It's like Otherworld created its own little pocket dimension of fandom.
They did.
You know, a place where people could gather to dissect episodes, share theories, and just revel in the show's unique weirdness.
And that sense of community continues to this day.
Oh, wow.
Online forums are buzzing.
Really?
With fans who are rewatching the show.
Wow.
Sharing their interpretations.
Cool.
And even creating their own Otherworlds.
It's a testament to the show's enduring power.
Absolutely.
You know, its ability to spark imagination and conversation decades after it aired. It's like Otherworld itself has become this timeless artifact, like a portal to this bygone era of sci-fi that still resonates with modern audiences.
And that brings us to the question of why Otherworld continues to fascinate viewers today.
Right. Why do we keep coming back to this short-lived, often overlooked show from the 80s?
You know, I think part of it is definitely nostalgia.
Okay.
For those of us who grew up in the 80s, Otherworld evokes this sense of wonder and possibility that was really prevalent in sci-fi at the time.
Yeah.
It reminds us of a time when anything seemed possible, when technology was both exciting and terrifying.
Right.
And, you know, when family was at the center of our lives.
Yeah, it's like this perfect time capsule of, you know, 80s anxieties and aspirations.
Right.
But, you know, Otherworld is more than just nostalgia.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it also speaks to our modern concerns.
Yeah.
You know, in this era of social media, artificial intelligence, increasing technological dependence.
Exactly.
You know, the show's exploration of surveillance control and the loss of individuality feels more relevant than ever.
Absolutely.
It's like a warning from the past.
Yeah.
You know, be mindful of the choices you make and the potential consequences of our technological advancements.
Yeah. And it reminds us how important human connection is.
Yeah.
Family. Those bonds that ground us and provide solace in this world that can feel so chaotic and overwhelming.
I'm starting to see Otherworld, not just as a show, but as like a reflection of ourselves.
I love that.
You know, both then and now.
Yeah.
It's like a mirror.
It is.
That shows us our hopes and our fears and our enduring fascination with, you know, those what ifs of existence.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of great science fiction.
Right.
It's not just about escaping reality. It's about understanding it more deeply.
Exactly.
It's about using imagination to grapple with those big questions.
Right.
To explore the possibilities. And ultimately, to learn more about ourselves and our place in the universe.
You know what? After this discussion, I feel like we've only scratched the surface of Otherworld.
Oh, there's so much more.
There's so much more to unpack.
Absolutely.
So many layers to peel back.
Yeah, and I think that's the invitation Otherworld gives us, you know, to keep exploring, keep questioning.
Right.
And never stop searching for those hidden truths that lie beneath the surface of our everyday lives.
I love, okay, so before we get too lost in the, you know, existential abyss.
Yeah, let's pull back a little.
Let's bring it back to Otherworld, the show.
Okay.
You know, we've covered the themes, the impact.
Right.
But what about the nuts and bolts of the production?
Sure.
Any fun behind-the-scenes trivia?
Oh, absolutely.
I always love those little details.
Otherworld is like a treasure trove of trivia.
Oh, really?
Especially for people who appreciate that behind-the-scenes magic.
Oh, yeah.
So, for instance, did you know that the creator of Otherworld, Sam Egan, was a veteran writer?
Okay.
With this long history in sci-fi and fantasy.
Oh, wow.
He had worked on shows like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits.
Oh, wow.
So he brought all of that experience to Otherworld.
That explains, like, the show's distinctive atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, it has that same blend of wonder and unease that made The Twilight Zone so captivating.
Exactly. And Egan's experience in those classic anthology series definitely shaped Otherworld's approach to storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, that willingness to delve into the strange and unsettling
while
still maintaining this sense of humanity and heart.
It's like Otherworld inherited the legacy of those earlier shows.
Yeah, it did.
You know, carrying the torch for thought-provoking sci-fi aimed at a wider audience.
Yeah, and that legacy extends to the show's visual style, too.
Oh, okay.
Otherworld really embraced that classic 80s sci-fi aesthetic with its blend of practical effects, matte paintings, and a little dash of early CGI.
It was a visual feast.
It was.
For fans of the genre.
Yeah.
It's funny how those 80s special effects, which might seem a bit cheesy now, actually add to the show's charm.
Totally.
It's like those imperfections give it a warmth and a personality that's missing from a lot of modern sci-fi.
Yeah, I agree. It's like those imperfections remind us that this is like a handmade story.
Yeah.
You know, crafted with passion and imagination.
Right.
Rather than just a cold, calculated product of digital technology.
So creating those other worlds
Yeah.
must have been a huge challenge.
It was.
Did they have a big budget for this, or were they working with limited resources?
From what I've gathered,
okay,
Otherworld was not a big budget production.
Oh, really?
They really had to get creative.
Wow.
Rely on ingenuity and resourcefulness.
It's like they were working within their own set of constraints.
They were.
Kind of like the Torkelsons, you know, having to adapt to these strange realities.
And I think that resourcefulness is part of what makes the show so impressive.
Yeah.
They managed to create this visually stunning and imaginative show.
Right.
Without, you know, breaking the bank.
Yeah.
Relying on clever filmmaking techniques.
Right.
And this really talented team of artists and technicians.
It's a reminder that sometimes limitations can breed creativity.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're forced to think outside the box,
right,
you come up with these really innovative solutions.
And that's a lesson that applies to, you know, both filmmaking and life in general.
Right.
Sometimes those most rewarding experiences come from embracing those constraints and finding creative ways to overcome them.
I like that. Okay, so before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have to ask about the cast.
Yeah.
They did such an amazing job.
They did.
Bringing the Torkelsons to life.
Absolutely.
They had to convey this whole range of emotions, wonder, excitement, fear, desperation, all while navigating these bizarre situations.
It's true. The casting for Otherworld was spot on.
It was.
Each actor brought such depth and complexity to their roles.
Yeah.
They created this believable family dynamic. That anchored the show's fantastical elements.
Okay, so any interesting backstories or fun facts about the actors?
Yeah.
Spill the tea.
Okay, so you might be surprised to learn that several members of the Otherworld cast went on to have really successful careers.
Oh, wow.
In film and television.
Oh, cool.
So, for instance, Jonathan Banks, who played Commander Nuveen, the stern leader of that surveillance society, in Rules of Attraction, became a pretty familiar face.
Wait, Commander Naveen was Jonathan Banks?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
He's been in everything.
I know.
Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Community.
I know, he's a legend.
It's so cool to see him in Otherworld, just showcasing that intensity, even in that brief but memorable role.
Yeah, what about the other actors?
Yeah, anyone else that we might recognize?
Well, Jessica Tuck, who played Karen Torkelson.
Okay.
The eldest daughter.
Right.
She went on to have a really successful TV career.
Wow.
Appearing in shows like One Life to Live and True Blood.
Wow. So even though Otherworld was short-lived, it really served as this launching pad.
Yeah.
For some really talented actors.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to the quality of the show itself. You know, even though it didn't last long. It clearly attracted talented individuals who were drawn to its unique premise. And compelling characters.
It's like Otherworld itself was this portal to other opportunities.
Exactly.
Both for the actors and for the viewers who discovered it.
And that's the beauty of these cult classic shows. It's a chance to appreciate the artistry of everyone involved, from the writers and directors to the actors and the crew, who all contributed to creating something truly special.
Well said. I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. But there's still more to explore.
Oh, yeah.
So in our final segment, we'll delve even deeper into Otherworld's legacy. You know, examine its impact on the sci-fi genre, its enduring appeal, and the lessons it offers about family, humanity, and imagination.
Sounds good.
This deep dive is turning into a full-blown expedition.
I know, right? It's amazing.
All right, so after all that, you know, behind-the-scenes stuff, let's talk about the big mystery.
Okay.
Why was Otherworld canceled?
Right.
We've hinted at some possibilities, but what do you think is the most likely reason?
That's one of those TV mysteries that we may never have a clear answer to.
Yeah.
Like, was it too smart for its time slot?
Okay.
Maybe it was ahead of the curve on those themes of tech paranoia.
Right.
But audiences in '85 just weren't ready for it.
It's like Otherworld was this gourmet meal served at a fast food joint.
Like that.
People were expecting, burgers and fries.
Right.
And instead, they got this complex multi-course experience.
And remember, this was the era of, like, the A-Team. Knight Rider.
Right.
Action-packed, straightforward entertainment.
Right.
And then Otherworld comes along.
Yeah.
And it's asking viewers to think.
Right.
To feel. To engage on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Maybe that just wasn't what primetime audiences were looking for.
But surely somebody at the network, must have seen its potential.
I think they did.
I mean, it got greenlit in the first place.
Right. And it wasn't a total flop.
Right.
It got critical acclaim. It won awards.
Yeah.
It even developed a really dedicated fan base.
Right.
But that mainstream success, that combination of, ratings and cultural buzz just always seemed to be out of reach.
It's like Otherworld stumbled into a parallel reality.
Yeah, maybe it did.
Where it never got the recognition it deserved.
Right, but as you said, those who connected with it really connected with it.
It became like a cult classic.
It did.
Passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah, like a secret handshake among sci-fi fans.
And that's a testament to its quality.
Absolutely.
Otherworld isn't just a product of its time.
Right.
It transcends those boundaries.
It does.
The themes it explores, the questions it raises, they're still relevant today.
I think even more so.
So let's talk about that relevance.
Okay.
We've mentioned how Otherworld anticipated some of our modern anxieties about technology, surveillance, the erosion of privacy.
Exactly.
But what else makes it resonate with audiences now?
Well, at its core, I think Otherworld is a story about family.
Okay.
About those enduring bonds that connect us.
Yeah.
Even when we're thrown into these extraordinary situations.
Right.
And that's a theme that really resonates.
It does.
Across generations.
All this talk about alternate realities makes me think about, the different paths our own lives could have taken.
Right.
What if I had made different choices? What if I had ended up in a completely different place?
I think we all ponder those what-if scenarios.
Yeah.
It's part of being human.
Yeah.
That fascination with the roads not taken.
Right.
And Otherworld really taps into that so brilliantly.
It does.
It takes those internal questions and makes them literal.
It's like the show is saying, hey, even if you haven't literally stumbled into an alternate reality, you're still navigating life.
Yeah.
Choice, consequence, all of that.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's those relationships.
Yeah.
Those bonds of family and love.
Right.
That help us make sense of it all.
And that brings us back to that question we asked at the beginning.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Right.
If you found yourself in one of those Otherworld scenarios?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Would you try to blend in?
Yeah.
Adapt to the rules?
Right.
Or would you be searching for a way back home?
Right back to what's familiar.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's the ultimate takeaway from Otherworld.
Yeah.
It's not about finding the right answer.
Right.
It's about the journey itself. It's about how we respond to the unknown.
Yeah.
How we adapt, how we grow.
Right.
And how we hold on to those human connections, no matter what challenges we face.
And it's about recognizing that even in our everyday lives, we're constantly navigating uncharted territory.
Exactly.
We're making choices, we're facing consequences, and trying to find our way in a world that can often feel as strange and unpredictable as any of those other worlds.
Exactly.
So even though Otherworld ends on a cliffhanger, leaving us with so many unanswered questions, maybe that's the perfect ending.
I think it is.
It's like an invitation to keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Yeah.
Keep imagining those what-ifs that make life so fascinating.
And who knows, maybe someday someone will pick up the torch.
Right.
And continue the story of the Torkelsons.
Yeah.
But until then, we have this amazing show.
We do.
Testament to imagination. Yeah.
The importance of family.
Absolutely.
And that enduring appeal of a well-crafted sci-fi adventure.
So to all our listeners out there, if you're looking for a show that will make you think, make you feel, and make you question everything you thought you knew about reality.
Right.
then Otherworld is definitely worth checking out.
It is.
It's a hidden gem
Yeah.
of 80s sci-fi that's still shining bright, just waiting to be discovered by a new generation of viewers.
That wraps up our deep dive into Otherworld.
It does.
We hope you enjoyed the journey.
We hope so.
Until next time, keep exploring those strange and wonderful corners of the television universe.
And remember, the Otherworld might be closer than you think.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
I had a blast.
Me too.